guys? Welcome to the first episode of Cafecito WYO. Let's give it up. Yep. Thank you. This will be officially the first episode. I'm going to be talking about myself. I'm going to be talking about basically my story. I'm going to be sharing it. There's really not like an interview thing here, like how in the future I'll be interviewing people about their stories and a bunch of different stuff. Here today is more about me kind of sharing where I am in life, what things have transpired for me, basically a bunch of different stuff. So we're gonna get going. Some of you know, obviously, I was born in Cuba, little island in the Caribbean. Well, I'd say little, but it is the biggest island in the Caribbean. 90 miles from the Florida shores. It is a communist place. It's been a lot in the news recently, with the blockade and the oil and all that stuff that's been going on in the news, which I'm sure we will touch on in future episodes or maybe in this one, but right now it's more of a we're just gonna move past that. So I was born there in 2005. Very free, very like peaceful way of living, obviously. It was never, since I was so young, I moved to the US in 2013, so I was 7 years old. I was in like halfway through second grade was when I started school at Wyoming Public Schools. Give it up. Yeah, Wyoming Public Schools. Great place to be at. But yeah. Anyways, I started there when I was 7, so I didn't really live a lot in Cuba, right? I lived 7 years, but it was from a little kid to, from a baby to 7 years old. But I did experience a lot. I experienced blackouts, early 2000s, late 2000s. I experienced blackouts, and it's very difficult for some people nowadays to grasp that, blackouts have been going on for a very long time in Cuba. It's not just because of the Trump blockade. But yeah, blackouts. I remember my family having to heat up the water for people in the family to take shower. Like boil the water on a stove. Sometimes having to cook with like wood, like on a wooden stove. Is a lot of things that people here in the U.S. take for granted, but I don't, and obviously we'll get to that. But 7 years in Cuba as a little kid. I moved to Wyoming, started at Wyoming Public Schools, and I began to learn English. I knew nothing. I knew no English whatsoever. Some guests that will be on the show will be able to testify to that. We'll be able to talk about me as a little kid. Hopefully they remember some stuff of me at Parkview Elementary, which is insane. We'll try to get some people here for sure from Parkview Elementary. We got Omarion. Remember Joseph was with me. There's a bunch of different people that I'm going to try to bring in, and we'll talk with them. But I learned English very quickly. It's very easy for when you're little to pick up English, especially the way that Wyoming with the younger kids does their language learning. It's very like you're in it. They don't put, you're not in a separate class or nothing. You're in it. You're struggling, but eventually you quickly learn. So that's really what helped me grasp the language so fast. So I did that. I moved, like I said, here. My brother and my mom came with me. My dad, in 2009, he left Cuba on a boat by himself. He, you know, my aunt and my uncle were already here in Michigan. So when he arrived in Florida, all the paperwork, then he was able to come up here to Michigan to begin to work and try to get me, my mom, and my brother out of the country in Cuba legally. He left illegally, but when he arrived in the U.S. Back in the day before Obama took it away in 2016, when he decided to work with the communist regime in Cuba, there was this thing called wet foot, dry foot, right? So what that meant is that any person that left Cuba on a boat, on a raft, and they made it to American soil, then they were legal in the US. But that's the dry foot part, right? But if they were caught on the water, like maybe like a mile from the shore or whatever the case may be on their raft, then they would be sent back to Cuba and they'd have to do it all over again. Or if they were caught in Cuba, whatever the case may be. But if they made it to the US, then they were legal. And that was like that, I believe, since the late 90s. That's when that became a thing. There was a lot of people coming in rafts, so they didn't really want to send them back, obviously, communists and all that stuff. But then Obama repelled that in 2016. But regardless, that's how my dad got here, got his paperwork to start working. It's all legal. He's all good. And then, obviously, we came over. He put in the paperwork. At this time, it only took 2 or 3 years for us to come to the U.S. legally, like with all our paperwork and everything, to leave on a plane. We left Cuba on a plane, me, my mom, and my brother. It was all great. Like, there was no issues. Nowadays, it takes very much longer, and I think that's one of the main reasons immigration is the way it is right now. The process takes 7, 8, 9 years because there's so much backlog. So people just decide to come into the country illegally, and that's something that needs to be addressed. So regardless, moving forward. I began to learn English, and I moved up very quickly. Obviously, we'll have people on here who can testify that I was a knucklehead when I was in middle school, even in high school. I wasn't always, the greatest kid. I did some not okay things, but doesn't really define you. And that's kind of my whole thing behind this podcast is what you were in high school, what people thought about you. It doesn't define who you will become in the future. I think a lot of people view high school life as, especially people who are in it there in that moment, they view high school life as that this is it. Like, this is my life. Like, this is the only thing that matters. And in the end of the day, like, when you're in it, sure. When you're in it, sure, high school's important. It's what matters. You want to get through it, if you're living in the moment, obviously. But it's not everything. And for me, that's kind of my path, right? It was just because I'm a troubled kid at times doesn't mean I'm gonna be a troubled adult, and that's what I took from high school, right? Is I messed up, I recovered, and I'm awesome. I'm great now as a young adult trying to live the American dream. But anyways, after high school, and we'll talk more about high school, but after high school, I went to the Calvin University here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I just finished my 3rd year, so I'm heading into my senior year of college. I decided to, of some as you might know, I decided to be a social studies teacher and Spanish. I think teaching is a way to connect with the community. I want to go back to Wyoming and teach, but if that doesn't work out, then there's a lot of different places around here in Grand Rapids that I would be okay with teaching at. But it is teaching is a great way to connect with the community. And my brother, he went to the Navy, and that was kind of his I've always said that that's his way to give back to America. And my way is to be a teacher. I think I can make, you know, a big impact in the community, on the kids' lives. I can do a lot of things as a teacher. Obviously, I want to coach. I played football. Got a little Wolfpack award there. Wasn't the greatest at football, definitely not. But I did it. I had fun, and I'd like to go back to coaching. But yeah, high school was fun. I made a lot of friends. Friend topic. I think people, when you're in high school, right? You make friends. That was my thing, was that everybody knew who Carlos was. In my mind, everybody knew who Carlos was. That didn't really translate to friends a lot of times. I know there was people when I was in high school that didn't really like me. I mean, that's just the truth, and it didn't really affect me, right? It didn't affect me as, gosh, there's so many people that dislike me. What am I gonna do? It affected me more so in whenever situations would arise, I would question, why is this happening to me? Like, I always thought I was such a, like, yeah, I would get in trouble sometimes or do whatever dumb things, and obviously I talked a lot and whatever, but it was more so like I'm such a peaceful, caring person. That's how I view myself now, and that's how I viewed myself then, that I didn't really understand the hate that sometimes I would receive in high school from some folk. And it wasn't like bullying. No, it wasn't something like that. It was more of like widespread hate for really no reason. But I mean, maybe we could have some of the guests that come on talk about, I don't know, if they heard something, or maybe we could bring on somebody that I know for sure was a hater in high school. I don't know, but that's not really how I am. I mean, maybe that's how I was, like a hateable person, but I feel like now I've grown so much. Obviously, I wasn't perfect then, and I'm not perfect now, but I've grown so much. I'm doing good. Obviously, I just got back from 5 months in Spain. I was doing a study abroad. I did that from like beginning of January till literally a week ago today. And it was a great experience living abroad, and I think living away from my family. During my college years, I've stayed at home because Calvin is like 15-20 minute drive from my house, and it's very difficult to involve yourself with college life and like live the college experience when you're living at home. And I think, many people can attest to that obviously the college experience is 100 times better when you're in college. You're living that experience in the college dorm, do all this. But I decided to stay home. I decided to save money, and I'm going to graduate college with zero debt from Calvin University. So I missed that aspect, but I'm not going to be in debt. So there's that. But no, living abroad was a great experience. I got to connect with so many people that I'm going to try to get some on here as well. I keep saying that, but I'm going to try to get some of these people on here. And yeah, it's been interesting coming back home, especially like there I didn't have a car, and it was always walking, and walking every day. It got annoying, and I was like, oh, I miss my car. But now I've had my car, and earlier today I was like, bro, I just want to walk. I just want to go walk to a store or something. But the stores are so far away from my house, I can't do it. I could walk, but it's going to take me like an hour to get to the store. So it's one of those like, apparently it's called reverse culture shock. And I'm kind of feeling that right now. I'm trying to get back to the way of living here. And obviously I love living in Grand Rapids. I think it's a great city, great spot. I want to build my future here and all that stuff. But I was interested. I loved living abroad in Spain for 5 months. Wouldn't do it for longer, I'll tell you that. But it was awesome. Moving forward, I think this kind of podcast is going to open a lot of doors for me. And I really want it to be like a connecting thing. I want it to be able to connect to the Wyoming community. I want it to be a big thing. And if I can do that, that'd be great. And if it's something small that really nobody watches, then that's great too. I mean, I really don't care either way, but it'd be awesome if it was a connecting thing. We'll be able to bring on people of all types, and yeah. Coming back to me, I guess we can talk about kind of some of my views. I think that's what the first episode is really about, is expressing how I feel and my backstory in my life. So obviously now you guys know I'm immigrated from Cuba to Michigan when I was 7. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say I'm conservative. I'm a Republican. I view things from a perspective of I fled a communist country, a dictatorship of 67 years where people cannot vote, where people can't decide their fate, people can't decide their future. You can't go out in the street to protest. People can't defend themselves because they're not, nobody on the streets, no normal human on the street that isn't part of the regime is allowed to have guns. So if a massive people go out and protest and they roll out a tank or start shooting people, they can't defend themselves. They can't do anything. Machetes, rocks, wood, whatever. That's where I come from, right? And you might hear it in the news. Trump regime. He won an election, 2016. America voted for him. Legally. 2020, he lost the election. Obviously, January 7th, January 6th, something like that, J6. It wasn't okay. I think there was some... It just wasn't good. What they did was not okay. Obviously, I don't support that. I don't support an insurrection. I don't support anything that has to do with attacking the American government, the American foundation, all of that stuff. But he left. He left office. We had Biden for 4 years. There was no massive insurrection, obviously, apart from, in Washington, whatever. People didn't go out in the streets and do mass protests against Biden. People didn't do no king marches. People didn't do all this stuff, right? People didn't try to kill him. And when I say people, I mean Republicans didn't try to do anything to stop Joe Biden from running the government. And Trump in 2024 won the election fair and square. They tried to convict him on counts, and they did, and whatever the proof was, there was some stuff that was shady with the paperwork and all that stuff. That is not something that people generally go to jail for. So when people talk about he's a convicted felon of 33 counts, It's not like he killed 33 people. You know, he was, it was economic, tax, whatever, paperwork and all that stuff. And people just want to blow it out of proportion when normally you don't go to jail. You don't serve time for that stuff. Whatever. And he won. He won in 2024. People knew about his convictions if they want to, use that against him. And he ran on mass deportations. He ran on making America great again. He ran on closing the border. He ran on doing all the things that he's doing right now. He ran on it. And he's just following through on the things that he ran on. Right? And he campaigned on stuff and people voted for him and he won. Right? And it wasn't even just a small amount of people that voted for him, right? He won all 7 swing states. It was a complete and total sweep. Is there people that regret voting for him? I mean, sure, but again, he is doing what he promised he would do. So I'm not really sure when people say, "Oh, I regret voting for Trump." He told you what he was gonna do. He said it. So I became a U.S. citizen a few months before the 2024 election, and freshly turned 18 years old, and I voted for Trump. Right, I voted Republican in my first ever election. Right, I would say I'm one of the very few people in my family, there might be 1 or 2 others, that have voted in American elections, that that became U.S. citizens and have been able to vote legally in American elections. And I didn't see that the Democratic Party was doing enough. I didn't see that the Democratic Party with Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, whoever they wanted to put forward, was doing enough for the American people and for my people, which my people obviously are the Cuban people, right? And when Marco Rubio joined Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, as many of you know, is Secretary of State, and his parents are Cuban. Marco Rubio represents my community. And the stuff that they have done for my community so far, even if it hasn't led to freedom just yet, it has led to widespread media coverage. It has led to Trump multiple times, I want to say more than 20, 30 times in the last few months, talking about Cuba and talking about action towards Cuba and trying to liberate the people. Trump has not once said that he wants to make Cuba the 51st state, which he has said about Canada, Greenland, Venezuela. I believe he even said it about Iran. He has not said that about Cuba. Now, Carlos, why would you be okay with the U.S. sitting president saying to make all these countries states? He's the kind of person that doesn't care what people say about him, right? He's a president in his second term, which if you look at the history and the facts of things, presidents in their second term don't care about public opinion. They're not looking to please people. Presidents in their first term look to please people, most of them, and because they want to be reelected right after their first term is over. Presidents like Obama, if you look back, the stuff with Cuba and him trying to fix things with Cuba and get rid of the embargo, which did very little to help the Cuban people. Instead, it just gave the regime more money. He did that in his second term. If he did that in his first term, the Cuban Americans in Miami would have been outraged, which they were already outraged with the stuff that he was doing. Regardless, to say that presidents in their second term don't care. Trump does not wake up every day and care about what people say negatively or badly about him. Obviously, he is one of those people that he just wants people to talk about him. You know, I think there's a word for that. I don't know if it's egotistical or I don't know. It's not psychopath. He could be psychopathic. No, but it's whatever. It's a word. It's out there. Look it up. Anyways, he just wants people to talk about him. He doesn't care if it's good. He doesn't care if it's bad. Whatever. As long as Trump is in the headline, he doesn't care. And that, I mean, how does that make me feel? I mean, obviously, it's not really how politics should be done. I think politics should be done in a very, very different way. And if I ever ran for office, I would do things very differently, right? Obviously, I can't be president. Can't be president. Wasn't born here. Could be president of Cuba one day if Trump liberates them. But regardless, to say that I could be governor, I could be whatever, run for other stuff. But if I did that, I would do my politics in a very different way. I wouldn't attack people. I wouldn't make fun of people. I don't agree with certain that stuff that Trump does, right? I think he talks too much. I think he does way too much, which that's just his personality. And if you look back on the history, that was his personality. But he was friends with all the Democrats before he ran for office. He was friends with Hillary. He was friends with Bill Clinton. He was friends with Obama. He was friends with everybody before he ran for office. And then he decided to run for office, and everybody hated Donald Trump. He was a racist, and he was homophobic, and he was all this stuff. But if you really look back on the history of him, all the Democrats, he was a Democrat almost. He gave money to the Democratic Party. He was at parties with Democrats. You know, talking about parties, if you want to talk about Epstein and Trump being on the Epstein files, a lot of Democrats were on the Epstein files, right? A lot of Democrats were friends with Epstein directly and were at parties with Epstein directly. So, needless to say, I think the next, my views are more Republican. My views are Republican. I disagree with things that Trump says. I disagree with them. But my views do not align with the Democratic Party. I mean, I don't really see a foundation for the Democratic Party. I don't see how someone could view the Democratic Party and actually see it as okay. Now, do they have things that are positive? Of course. They have some social issues that the Republicans could take away from. And that's really the biggest thing that shocks me, right, about American politics, is that we're not doing this, right? We're not working together, right? They're not doing it. They're doing this, right? The government's doing that. And at the same time, people are doing that, right? Maybe I get hate for saying all these things that I'm saying about Republicans and about Trump and how I support him and I support the Republican Party. But that's what's going on. Like, I personally would not hate somebody for being a Democrat. I think a lot of people that I know are Democrats and that's okay. They can be. Or they just simply don't follow politics, or they just hate Trump just because they hate Trump. But like, I have normal conversations with people, right? I don't hate people because of their politics. I think it's yes, politics matters, and I think you cannot live your life saying that you don't care about politics. I think people that say that, I don't know how they could say that, but people do. And I think politics is something that revolves around everyday life. You know, I think politics, is important. And if you don't follow politics, you're not really, I don't know how you live life without knowing what's going on in politics. Anyways, that's kind of my view I think, as an immigrant in this country, I want secure borders. I understand that there's good illegal immigrants. I get it. I get it. And I'm sure Trump gets it. He understands that there's good illegal immigrants. But there's also bad illegal immigrants. We have to understand that. There's bad and there's good illegal immigrants. And if we let all these people come through the border without following due process, like I had to follow, like I had to do interviews to be able to make it to this country. I went to the embassy and they asked me, why are you going to America? Who's there? What are you going to do once you're there? I remember this stuff. I was 7, but I remember this stuff. This is what I want. This is what I support, and this is what a lot of legal immigrants support. That's why Trump won the legal immigrant vote, the Latino vote, right? Because legal immigrants understand the struggle and the sacrifice that you need to make to come to America legally and to follow the correct path. I understand their struggle in Latin America, and I understand their struggle in Cuba, their struggle everywhere. But coming into a country anywhere in the world illegally is an illegal action. You cannot travel to a country illegally without getting a visa, without having a passport. You can't do it. It's just human life. Now, if you want to discuss that and you want to say that, human idea of immigrant, that is a philosophical question that will never be answered. We will always have passports. We will always have immigration laws. They're getting tighter here, and they're going to have to get tighter in Europe. And they're trying to also get them tighter in Europe because Europe is also struggling. Europe is going through the same thing from illegal immigrants from Africa and from Asia and from other places going into European countries. And they're also starting to see the effects of some of the stuff that's going on here in America. Needless to say, another reason that I don't support the Democratic Party is the hate that they give to America, right? Without acknowledging that all these immigrants are coming to America because of how perfect this country is. And perfect, I mean imperfect. It's perfect because we have a foundation of a constitution that has survived this year 250 years, right? It has led us through Civil War. It has led us through 2 world wars. It has led us through Korean War, Vietnam War, the Cold War, the French and Indian War. It has led us through so much stuff, yet here we are, right? Our country split into 2 about slavery. And what still remains? The Constitution and the things that the Constitution said. Because our Constitution is one of the strongest documents that has ever been written in the history of humankind. And if you can't acknowledge that, I don't know what to tell you. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. That's why there's amendments on them. But it is one of the strongest documents ever written. And we have followed it. We have built our country on it. And that's what I want to continue to happen. I don't want America to be a communist dictatorship like Cuba, right? I want America to succeed because I came to America because it was successful, right? I learned English because I wanted to connect to the American community. I wanted to be able to communicate with the American community. I'm here in America. Why would I hate America as an immigrant? I love America. And I think there's people out there, Americans, for example, that hate America. I don't know how you could hate your country. I'm Cuban. And right, I was born in Cuba. So I'm Cuban. Dictatorship, right? 67 years by the Castro brothers. And now Miguel Diaz-Canel, who is worse than the Castro brothers. U.S. imperialism before that, which I totally agree with, that there was U.S. imperialism before 1959. But it was better then than what it is now, I'll tell you that. Then before that with the Spanish occupation, right, until 1902. Does that mean I hate Cuba? No, I love Cuba. I wish I could do something to help fix Cuba, right? And I would do it in a positive way. I would try to help out, right? But I had to escape. But I don't hate Cuba. I love my country there, and I love this country too, right? All these people that go and burn American flags and say they hate America, try to fix America. It can be fixed. Whatever you think is wrong with America, it can be fixed. Look at our history. The beginning of American history, black people were treated unhuman. They couldn't vote, they didn't have rights, they didn't have anything. Look at the black community now. Right? Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, right? But our country has come such a long way for people to sit here and say that they hate America. Right? It's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means. But I'm telling you, as someone who comes from an actual dictatorship, it's America's good. It can be fixed. There's things that can be fixed. First thing that needs to be fixed is people just need to go out and vote for who they actually believe in instead of just voting among party lines. I think there's people that go to the ballot box and vote Democrats because, I'm a registered Democrat, so I'm going to vote all my people Democrats, or I'm a registered Republican, so I'm going to vote all my people Republican. No, vote for whoever you connect with. Why do you have to vote like that? Understand it. Understand who you're voting for. Now, if it's all Republicans that you're voting for, but you get all their views, that's fine too. You know, it's the beauty of being in a democratic country, that you can vote for whoever you want. You can do a podcast like I'm doing right now. You can do anything. You can say anything. Right? People in Cuba, if did podcasts like I'm doing now, would go to jail. They'd be knocking on their door. There's documented cases of people doing podcasts, doing Facebook Lives, doing whatever, and the cops show up and then take them away. That's a dictatorship. That is a regime. When people say the Trump regime, Trump doesn't have a regime. He was an elected president, democratically elected president that people decided to put in office. Simple as that. People had the choice to vote Kamala. They didn't do it. And I really don't think that our country or the world would be any safer or any better off with Kamala Harris as president. That's just my personal opinion. We don't know. She has a chance to run in 2028. Personally, I don't think the Democratic Party will win in 2028. Even with some of the negative things that Trump has done, I think it'll obviously be either J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. Personally, I want Marco Rubio. He's Cuban American, all this stuff. We'll see what happens in 2028. But again, needless to say, that's kind of my political view as an immigrant. I think, I just want the best for the country, and I think the Republican Party and what it stands for is better. That's just my personal opinion. I could be proven wrong in the future too. It's not something that's set in stone, like a few years from now, there could be a Democratic leader 10, 15 years from now that I absolutely like. Maybe I'll go vote for him and he becomes president, or she, it's not something like it's set in stone. It's just right now. That's who can try to help my people. The Democratic Party has just been trying to cheer up the communists in Cuba, been trying to help the communists in Cuba. They went a few weeks ago with the communist country and the communist regime to try to prop them up and say that they're not bad people. They're bad. I'm telling you, because I fled communism. I understand. I have family there that is struggling every single day. And they can't go out in the streets and say how they feel because they will go to jail. They will go to jail. Get beaten, whatever the case may be. Regardless. Anyways, so that's kind of my political stuff. What's another thing? We could talk about education. I think, like I said, I'm obviously going to be a teacher. For me, I would never let politics affect how I teach. Never. I would never, same thing I was mentioning earlier, I would never let politics, I would never hate somebody because of their politics. I don't hate Joe Biden. I don't hate Democratic leaders. I mean, that's just nonsense, Now, I don't agree with them. That doesn't mean I hate them. Doesn't mean I want to do harm to them. Doesn't mean any of this stuff that a lot of people come up with on Trump. I've heard so many people that are against Trump say, "Oh, I hate him. I hope he dies." Come on, man. What, over politics? It's beyond me. But I would never let that get in the way of me being able to teach kids. I would never let that get in the way of me being able to make meaningful connections with them, with my students, or with coworkers, future coworkers that I'll have, or with friends, family members. Obviously, I love debate, and that's why I'm going to start having people on here on the podcast to be able to talk about things, and it'll get heated. We'll have some cafecito, which actually I have it right here. See, this is the cup that we're going to be drinking from, okay? It says Cubita right here. I don't have any coffee right now. I just don't have any coffee right now. But we'll get some coffee in here when we get people. And then I also have this little thing. It says ring for coffee. We'll ring that bad boy, and we'll have a little coffee break. But that's what's up. Having genuine conversations with people and being okay. I've never understood why people have to get so aggressive, so defensive. And obviously I know that Trump is one of the biggest culprits of this. And I don't agree with him on this. I don't. Right? I think he should talk differently. I think he should respect people. Everybody in politics does it. Democrats do it. Republicans do it. They all do it. Right? They all do it. But because it's Trump, everybody just hates him. Blatantly. Anyways. Yeah, so I would never let politics get in the way of things. But yeah. Let's see. We can talk about sports. Now we switch to sports and how I feel about that. I'm a Lakers fan. I like LeBron. Obviously, you can call me a bandmate. I think LeBron's the GOAT. I think LeBron's the GOAT. That's just me, though. When I first started watching basketball, my favorite player used to be Isaiah Thomas on the Celtics. So that was probably 2016, 2015. And then, obviously, he had all the injury stuff. And then Lonzo Ball got drafted in 2017, and I really liked him, so I kind of started watching the Lakers. And then I followed Lonzo to the Pelicans and to the Bulls, and then to the Cavs, but now he's out the league because of all his knee injuries. But yeah, LeBron on the Lakers, obviously, like I said, with Lonzo and stuff on the Lakers too, was very cool. Football-wise, I'm a Browns fan. I love my Brownies. I gotta get... If you guys see this here, this is some Wyoming stuff and Calvin stuff. I'm gonna try to get, some Lakers stuff to put up. Some, Brown stuff. Just so everybody kind of knows. Maybe some Trump stuff. We'll see. Just so everybody knows kind of what I'm all about. This is gonna be my little setup studio when I'm talking solo. And then when I have guests, I'm gonna try to figure something out uh, set wise. But anyways, I'm a Browns fan. I love the Cleveland Browns. Probably since Myles Garrett got drafted after the 1-16 season, 1-15, and then when they went 0-16, and they drafted Baker Mayfield, that's kind of the first year I started watching them. I believe that was 2018. Just kind of went with them, and that's how it's been this whole time. So I love 27. Was it 2017, 2018? One of those years. I love my Brownies. Been to a game 2 years ago with my buddy Jace, which we'll probably have on here too. And it was awesome. I had end zone seats. It was against Baltimore Ravens, and they beat them somehow. We had Jameis Winston at quarterback. We could talk with Jace about this, and he hates it. He went with me. He hates that game, man. The Ravens, Kyle Hamilton dropped so many picks. It was ridiculous. But yeah. Anyways, baseball. I'm a Marlins fan. Obviously, connected to Miami and the Cuban community, whatever. I don't really watch baseball that much. I play the show sometimes. Bruh. My friend, my buddy Tyler, knows more about baseball than me. We could have Tyler the Frickster. Could have him come in here, talk about some baseball maybe. He's a Tigers fan. I feel sorry for him. But that's another topic. Hockey, I don't really watch hockey. I don't know. I guess that's not really, I don't know. Never really connected with hockey per se. Um, Soccer or football, kind of going to Europe. I went to 2 soccer games, or they would say they're football, and that was fun. I mean, it was exciting stuff. But here in America, obviously, it's in the U.S. is very different. People don't really have a following, although it's growing. And now with the World Cup and stuff, maybe we can have some segments about the World Cup. I don't know a lot about it, but we'll talk about it. Maybe bring on a guest that knows more World Cup stuff than me. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah. What's another thing? I don't know. I'm just a very open person. Like, I will have conversation about anything. We can talk about anything. I'm pretty open book. And yeah, I did this episode as the first one because I want people to know kind of where my stance is. But I don't want this also to define who comes on the show. Just because I'm a Republican and I support Trump does not mean that I will have only Trump supporters or only Republicans on here. That's not the premise of my podcast, right? I'm gonna talk about it because I love talking about politics. I love discussing politics. I love it. It is, I don't know. Nothing gets fixed after having political talk, but I love having political talk. So, but we're gonna have we're gonna have Dems on here. We're gonna have libs on here. We're gonna do it all. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have people from all over the place, all different backgrounds. I don't care. Anybody that wants to have a genuine conversation with me, we'll bring him on and we'll talk. And that's what this podcast is gonna be about. You know what I'm saying? Genuine conversations about whatever people want to talk about. Obviously, the first couple of guests, I want Wyoming people, right? They graduated from WYO. Maybe in my class 2023, we'll talk about their backstories, a little bit like how I did today, kind of where they came from, like how they grew up, all that stuff, memories of high school, what happened to them after school, how are they doing after. And it'll be a convo. It's not really going to be an interview. It's going to be more of like just a conversation between them and me. They can ask me questions, I can ask them questions, and we'll just kind of flow. But yeah, I could also try to do some live streaming. We could live stream sometimes, here and there. Mainly it's gonna be videos just because, I don't know. I'm trying to keep the videos like raw, not a lot of editing. I'm really not gonna edit this video. It's just gonna be put out there. So we could do live streaming. We'll see what happens. But yeah, expect episodes maybe once a week. And if I get a lot of people wanting to be on the show, then it could be more than once a week. But if I could, I'm going to try at least to start out. The minimum is going to be once a week. That's kind of my goal. And try to release the videos on Sundays. So every Sunday, I would expect a video. But who knows? Life is insane. So it might not work out that way. But we'll see. We have 1 week from today to try to figure out someone to come to the second episode. Goal is to have someone on here. And we will. Trust me. We will have someone on here for the next episode. Anyways, this has been Cafecito Talks. I know we didn't have cafe, but we will soon. Okay? We will have some Cafecito Cubano auténtico. I promise. Okay? Oh, maybe we could even have a Spanish episode. Who knows? We'll see. Porque hablo español, obviamente. Anyways, yeah, it's been great. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have listened to this whole thing, which is kind of insane if you have, make sure you guys drop a follow. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys follow the Instagram, Cafecito WYO. Make sure you follow socials. Do all the above. Like, subscribe, comment. If you guys want to be involved, you can drop some comments and then I'll bring them up on the next episode. Whatever the case may be, engage with me. Do whatever. Hit me up. I'm an open book. All right, I'm an open book. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Cafecito WYO. This is your host, Los, signing off.